welcome Megan to the Imperfect Moms Club.
Oh,
And if
hi.
you could just, in your own words, just an introduction to you and who you are and what you do, and tell us about your podcast too.
Okay. Are we already like getting that in?
Yeah.
So you never know where the plug should go, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't want to be that weirdo who's like, yeah, and so I backpacked Europe and I started a podcast,
And follow
Uh,
my Instagram.
yeah. Hi, so I'm Megan Kitchen. I am from the States. I lived in several states. So I'll do a little shout out to born in New Hampshire, a little bit of Texas, a little bit of California, Penn State, whoop whoop, all of those. So I'm sure someone connected to those. But then at one point, and I'm not sure if we'll get into it today, but there's plenty of podcasts where you can listen to this part of the story. I said, I'm out of here. And I backpacked Europe and then I guess hadn't found what I was looking for yet. So I said, I'm just going to give it a little bit more time and a little bit more time. And it went from, I'll do a German class and be an au pair for 6 months to it's been 13 years. I'm married and I have 2 kids.
Oh, wow.
That's
And
so cool.
so I'm still here. I've lived many different chapters of my life in this one place, but it's many different chapters. And that's me. And then along the way, as I had my children, and here they have very wonderful maternity leave, I took with my second child, so with my daughter, I decided to take the full time, which is 3 years.
Oh, that's so
What?
nice.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Wait for it. And then I'd saved a year from my son's maternity leave.
What?
And so I actually took
You
a
can
total.
do that?
You can save 1 year.
Okay. Oh my God.
Up until they're 8 years old, you can take this like year that you've saved.
Oh my God.
And so I was like, well, this is my last kid. And once I go back to work, I'm also a teacher. I knew once my kids are in school, we're going to be on the same calendar. I'm not going to just randomly take a year off as a teacher. And I think of my students as well. I was like, isn't it better for me to just take all the time now and then go back and like stay?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm in the middle of my 4th year right now. I go back in August to teaching, but I knew my personality type, I couldn't just, being a mom is a full-time job. Let's put that out there. It's more than a full-time job. I actually read an article that it's like 2.5 jobs.
Yeah,
I read that same article.
Did we all read that article?
Yes. All the moms were like, see, I told you.
Send it to your friends, Yeah. And so I knew that, and I knew it was going to be a lot of work, but I also needed something that I could find success in outside of motherhood. I know that being a mom is hard even before I was a mom, because I'd had friends go through it, sisters and family go through difficult times. And I thought, knowing my personality type, I need something else that's going to be my point of success in case everything else in the day goes wrong. And so I started a podcast. And I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
And it's called Balancing Cultures because that's what I do all day, every day.
Yeah, because I'm sure that there's things from your childhood that you're like, oh, I have to carry this over into my motherhood journey. I want my kids to experience this and the other thing. But now you've also been living in Germany for 13 years. And I'm sure there's stuff there that you're like, oh, I love this way better. I want to include this. So yeah, that's what it is. It's a balance. I don't know, it's a melting pot. I love that.
And
Awesome.
I
Yeah,
forgot to say it, but I married a Finn. And so I'm an American married to a Finn, and we live in Germany. And so it's a lot of things to consider.
Yeah.
When raising children and how we're going to do it. So, yeah, that's the journey I'm on.
That's amazing. Well, that actually brings us into our next segment. We are going to talk to Megan about what it's like raising multicultural children in Germany.
Raising kids in Germany is mostly great. There's no perfect place, right?
Yeah.
But you've already heard the first thing that's a big difference, and that's maternity leave.
Mhm.
It is like, it's law here. It's not, oh, I happen to have a company that really supports mothers. No, this is every office, every company is required to give this to mothers. And so that has really changed my whole motherhood journey to this point, because my motherhood journey is only 5 years old. That's my oldest.
Mm-hmm.
And for the majority of that time, I've been on a maternity leave, which was partially, for parts of it, paid. So for
Mhm.
your first year out, you're paid. And so with 2 kids, I've had 2 years of paid maternity leave of my 5 years of motherhood. Um, and also with that, I just find the culture here really supports mothers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's playgrounds on every corner. The beer halls and the beer gardens have playgrounds.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
That's
There's
amazing.
just, it's kid friendly. It's meant for people to have children and to live that life and not just have to buy a big house and have a playground in your backyard and be like isolated in your motherhood. It's
Mm-hmm.
about being a part of a community.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and I really appreciated that. It's still hard. You
Mhm.
still have to make mom friends like anywhere else, trying to be like, hey, so I see we've got kids around the same age. Should we maybe hang out?
Oh my God,
It's
making
still
mom friends
awkward.
is the worst.
It's the worst. And you join the mom groups and you hope it sticks,
Mhm.
and I've found some of my favorite people in those groups. But in that way, it's the same struggle in making mom friends.
Yeah.
I don't know, what else would you guys like to know about kind of raising kids internationally? Because I
Um,
could go off.
I guess so. You're on your maternity leave. So when you go back, you say you got back in August. So is there gonna be like some kind of daycare or something for your kids to go to? Like what? How does that work?
So good question. This is one of the difficult things. Well, I live in a major city. I'll throw that out, which makes things challenging because it's very competitive for
Mhm.
Okay.
anything, real estate, jobs, daycare.
Mm-hmm.
So culturally, the typical thing is by the time they're 5 years old, they go into kindergarten. Yeah. And they do a year before they go into first grade. That's kind of standard, the minimum. Here in Munich, where I live, another kind of cultural standard would be most kids do more time in some type of daycare, kindergarten before that.
Okay.
All the friends that I know, we all had our kids in by the time they were 2
Mhm.
in some type of daycare system, even if we were stay-at-home moms,
Okay.
for the social, emotional growth and,
Mhm.
all the stuff that goes with that they gain from being in the social setting. And that's supported here culturally. Um, Financially, you've got to fight for your spot in a public one if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Many of us end up with a private one just because that's what's left.
Mhm.
But even compared to what I've heard from my sister-in-law and other people living in the States, even the private ones are cheaper than some of the stuff I've heard in the States.
Yeah.
I'll just give, so for example, here, a public kindergarten or KITA. So the 0 to 3-year-old group is called KITA or KIGA. There's lots of names. And then the 3 to 6-year-olds is kindergarten.
Okay.
Um, and you can pay a couple $100 a month for that.
Wow.
Oh, that's so cheap.
That's
For the public
oh
ones.
my God.
For the public ones.
Okay.
Okay.
For private, you're gonna pay closer to 1,000
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
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 I'm sure there's small towns and other major cities in Germany that are different, but yeah, that's kind of the price range here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you have your kids at 2 years old. They're in something for their social growth. So that Lily's actually in preschool right now. So as soon as she turned 2, I put her in like a part-time preschool. It's only like 2 mornings a week. I don't know how often are your kids in something like that.
So
Um,
my kids, I sent them 5 days a week. Here, that is typical that once you're in, you go 5 days a week.
mhm.
But the pickup times are as early as 12 or 1 or 2. So it's really dependent on what the family is made up of what jobs they have going on, what you can afford, because the longer you stay, the more it costs, of
Right.
course. And so for me, it was always easy, since both my kids were good nappers, to just let them stay there
Yes.
for the nap. And then I got more time,
Mm-hmm.
because it was worth it, that little boost of money, to say, oh, I get like 2 extra hours and I don't have to try and put them down myself.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sign
Right?
me up.
Moms know where moms know. Um, and so I did the later pickup, where some moms really liked going to get their kid just after they've had lunch and took them home for nap.
Mhm.
So I think that's just a family decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so we were talking about prices. So we pay only a couple hundred a month for like the 2 days, 2 mornings a week for Lily. But I mean, even just like the ones that are 3 days or even like 4 days, I mean it's astronomical, the price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I could put her somewhere 5 mornings a week for just a couple $100 a month, like sign me up like right now.
Yeah.
That would be great. Because I'm a stay-at-home mom, full time. Like I don't have any job outside of the house. So I mean, yeah, I definitely would love to have some more time, but it's just like we only have my husband's income right now, so it's
Yeah.
not possible. But that's amazing that Germany is. I really love that it's like the community, like we're talking about, like it's really supportive of even the playgrounds on every corner. Like that's wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
I would love that. I feel like I have to drive like 10 miles to take my daughter to. We have like a tiny little neighborhood playground, but it's like nothing,
Yeah.
you know.
But I live in a major city where it's much less common for people to have big backyards.
Okay.
Like, we live in an apartment right now. We have
Mhm.
no backyard. We have a balcony. And so that's just kind of the culture we're living in here, living in a major city. But I will say, in Germany in general, even in smaller towns where people do end up having gardens, and the garden is how they say backyard here, not like vegetable garden,
Mm.
um, they would still have a nice big playground somewhere. And another part of the culture is just getting out in nature. And so the forest and down by the river and the mountains, those are also a playground to the kids here. So it's always about like, oh, is the sun shining? Go, get
Mm-hmm.
out. Is the sun not shining? Put on your rain pants, go, get out. It's just, yeah, get out.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, when it's raining here, I'm like, no, like like Lily's like, I want to play in the backyard, and then all I'm thinking about is how much mud she's gonna like track in, and I'm like, no, but like, I wish I was more like, yeah, let's play outside in the mud and get dirty. And I did that episode that I was talking about motherhood around the world. I did Scandinavian parenting and how like they're very, very much like go get dirty, like go outside, like go get all the germs, like do all that
Yeah.
stuff. And so I'm
That's
like,
my husband.
I wish I was like that, but
In the Scandinavian episode, did you mention the thing about babies sleeping outside?
yes, I did. So I that was like the last thing I mentioned was like this is crazy, but apparently like you can just leave your babies outside.
Did
It's
it?
not, I mean, I say crazy, like it's awesome is what because here in America, like you can, I mean, if I see like a
You would
baby in
get
a
the government
stroller,
called on you.
yeah, like if I
To
see a
be
baby in a
fair,
stroller outside, like I'm marching in there and I'm like, whose kid is this? But-
it's very different, right? So if we were up in Finland, where my in-laws are, my husband grew up, yeah, we could just park the baby outside of the cafe. You wouldn't do it like outside a grocery store and go do a big shop.
Uh-huh.
They're outside the window and you're sitting inside the window, right?
Right.
Okay.
So you can still see them.
Here, some people do it. Again, if it's like a cafe and you can see the stroller from where you're sitting, but it happens to be outside. Some people will do it, but it's not as common.
Mhm.
And I'm the only one in my mom friend group. To be fair, most of them are Americans married to Germans, so they're
Mhm.
kind of a 50-50 as well. But we parked my son, who's a winter baby, we parked him out on the balcony
Mm-hmm.
for his naps, and those were the best naps he
Mm-hmm.
had,
Yeah, I was
honestly.
reading that like babies sleep like so well outside and it's like great for their and plus it's good for like building immunity because
Yeah.
they're exposed to things. It's just so I was reading all about it and I was like, oh my God, like I want to do all these things, but I would like get so arrested
That's the problem. You've got to adhere to the local culture a little bit, right? Like you could
Yeah.
probably park if you had another baby. Don't know what's going on here, but you could park them in your backyard.
Oh yeah.
It's true. Yeah. I could totally
Yeah.
like Holly, she's 8 months, and I could just be like, hey, like, let's do nap time in the backyard. And my husband would be like, Lisa, what are you doing? Why is she outside?
I think
I'd
you
be
have to
like, "Don't worry
start
about it."
young.
Just don't worry about it. It's fine. She's,
Don't worry about it.
sleep, or it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Brittany, did you have anything to add?
Yes. Okay. So in this, I don't know how it is there, but in the States, there's a lot of mom shaming going on, which is like not cool. We're trying to like not do that. But oh my word, like when moms are trying to like feed their own kids, like it can get so toxic. Like if your kid's food isn't like 100% organic, then you're not a good mom. If you didn't make it from scratch, blah blah blah. If you feed them Kraft mac and cheese, and it's like insane. So it's like this insane balance. You're trying to like keep them healthy, but also like they actually eat something. So
Yeah.
anyway, I was just curious, like what is the typical, I don't know, diet that like a typical kid will eat over there in Germany? Like what do they eat over there?
Food. I will say we have less access to prepackaged snacks and a lot of this kind of pre-made food. It's
Mhm.
just not as popular here because, and here's a negative thing, the expectation is that there is a stay-at-home, typically mom, or a dominant parent who is in charge of the household stuff. Schools, even elementary schools, get out so the kids can come home for lunch.
Mhm.
There's still this very kind of old-fashioned view of how a home is managed, and it's
Mhm.
typically the mom staying home. And so it's still expected that there are home-cooked meals, for lunch being the main hot meal. And if it's two working parents, then it's dinner that's the main hot meal, but it's still the mom who's cooking it.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so most things are done from scratch or homemade.
Mhm.
And so when you go to pack lunches here, it's not like you see these videos or I'm in Facebook groups where it's like, ooh, lunch ideas, right? And you see the American moms and they're like, package snack, package this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
crustable thing and a juice box. And I'm like, those are all pre-made things.
Yeah, you can't buy those.
You just can't get them. And
Wow.
so for us, we go bento box style,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
Not because we're trying to be fancy, but that's just the way it is. So open a big thing of crackers. I take a few out and I put it in the spot. Open a big thing of carrots and I put a few in the spot instead of getting these individually wrapped baby carrots.
Mhm.
But I think like any mom, there's the balance of my kids want frozen pizza because we can
Mhm.
get that.
Mhm.
Um, but I also once in a while want to do like a roast chicken and potatoes. And so
That sounds
I
yummy.
think you get both. But
Yeah.
when it comes to like school lunches,
Mhm.
that's kind of the big difference. But it's from a practical standpoint, we just don't have those things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, it probably is healthier. I mean, to be cooking from scratch and not having all of everything prepackaged and
Yeah.
there's got to be preservatives in everything,
Yeah.
so I'm sure it is healthier. And I've done a little bit of research. There's different countries that are like will have the same brand, like let's just say macaroni and cheese. Okay.
Yeah.
In America, they're allowed to put different ingredients in their macaroni and cheese, but then if you go over to Europe, they ban certain ingredients. And I'm like, okay, how come those are banned, but they're not banned over here? Like that makes me a little nervous.
Solid question. Solid question.
So yeah, I'm sure it probably is healthier, but it's more work too. And that's, I guess, yeah, where you get the expectation of, well, someone's got to be standing there in the kitchen, peeling all the things and cutting up all the things. And yeah, and it's mom.
Yeah.
And sometimes and it's okay. Some moms are just like all in, and that's what they love to do. And they love cutting the carrots into a star shape, and good for them. But then some of us it's just not our thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. I wanted to go ahead and get to our next segment. So in your podcast, you talk about raising trilingual children. I think that's amazing. So we're going to take a quick break again, and then when we get back, we will talk all about raising trilingual children, because how cool is that? So be right back. Welcome back, guys. So now we will talk about raising trilingual children, or raising bilingual, just raising children with different languages. I think that's amazing. I have French in my family. We're still working on it with Lily, but yeah. So please explain how you have such amazing children.
Well, I will start by saying it's not a complete success. So there's the imperfect mom that is the reason I'm here. Like, this is how I can join the club. This is my imperfection. So my husband is Finnish, like I said. I'm American. We live in Germany. And I had my first baby, and I was like, I am raising trilingual babies. I am going to be the coolest mom on the block. Well, things don't always go to plan.
Yeah.
So the English is solid. The English is completely solid. I would say it's my kid's mother tongue. It is their dominant language. There's a lot of things that play into that. I am a talker. I talk even when there's no adults around and I just had my little baby. I'm like, talking them through their diaper change and everything. So it's constant language.
Yeah.
I'm also a teacher. And so I use a lot of language learning strategies with my children, and I know to slow down and enunciate and to explain things in different ways. My husband is quiet, Finnish. He's also, when he does decide to talk, he's a bit of a mumbler. Even his sister complains about this, that he just, even in Finnish, to Finns, is not the clearest speaker. And so you get someone who doesn't talk much, and when they do talk, it's not the clearest. And he's not coming in with any type of educator's knowledge of how to approach language learning. So the Finnish is not really sticking as well, let's say as well as I want it to. I am more passionate about this language learning than my own husband, and it's his mother tongue. Because I see it as this is them opening doors to other worlds and all the things, the stars in my eyes about language learning. And my husband goes, but they have the world's language already. They have English. And I was like, oh, please don't say that like that.
Yeah.
Don't say it like that. And he's like, yeah, but they have the language that's going to be very useful for them. How many people speak Finnish? And how hard is it to learn? It is one of the hardest languages in the world to learn.
I've never even attempted it, but I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Don't make me say anything. And so it's been a real struggle. It's been a struggle. And we tried to do the one parent, one language. If you've heard about that, where you just, whatever they say to you, you still just stick to one language. You try and encourage them. But my husband found that really difficult as well, because I don't speak Finnish.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized how often when you're talking to kids, you're actually talking to the other adult in the room.
Right.
You're like, you only have 5 more minutes until dinner. You're really queuing up the other parent. And he's like, if I spoke Finnish the whole time, you would never know what's going on. And so there's been a lot of those moments with our language learning. If he speaks Finnish, they will respond in English at this point, but they will respond correctly.
That's good. Yeah.
And so that's that language. And then with German, my daughter is the younger one. She's 3, and she loves speaking German, singing songs in German. I think she's going to end up having a very strong German connection.
That's great.
Where my son just, how they say there's early walkers and early talkers. He was an early walker. He is the physical one. He can probably climb a tree right now. But language came a bit slower. And so English stuck really well. German didn't stick as well. And he struggled a lot in the German kindergarten. And then there were some other things that happened, and an unfortunate bullying incident. And we decided, we're just going to switch you to boost your confidence and also just give you a better setting for who you are. And we're going to switch you to an English-speaking kindergarten. And since we've done that, because he started refusing to speak German at all, not even acknowledging it if someone was talking to him. And since we've moved him to an English-speaking kindergarten that integrates German, he has a German class, and there's a lot of German kids there who've been sent to then have English as a second language. He plays in German on the playground.
Oh wow.
Oh,
And he comes
Yay.
home and he goes, Mom, did you know that lustig means funny? I learned that today,
Aw.
And so I think we all know that each kid is very different. And we had the opportunity to say, this scenario is better for you as a person.
Yeah.
And he will likely be more monolingual with like touches of German as kind of more of a second language, and
Mhm.
Finnish as a second language rather than trilingual,
Right.
because that's who he is.
Yeah.
Where I think my daughter will more likely be the trilingual one. And that's who she is. And that's where we're at. It's hard
Yeah.
though. It's
Yeah,
hard.
I love that. I love that. I mean it is, you do have to gear things toward like individual children, because everybody learns different things and everybody's different. So I like that a lot. So for us, I'm bilingual in French, but I read that like you want to speak to your children in your dominant language so that they get all of the words. And so English is my dominant language. I'm bilingual in both, but I mean, I went to all my school here in the States. And so, I mean, although I learned French first, it was like quickly overshadowed by English. So I felt bad in the beginning because I was like, man, like I should have been speaking French with Lily this whole time. Like, what am I doing? She's never going to be bilingual. But then, I read that article that said, talk to them in your dominant language, and I felt a little better. So now what I'm doing is I've been sort of like giving her bits of French. Like I'll change the language on our shows to French on TV, and and I'll do those sorts of things. And my mom, her dominant language is French, and so I told my mom,
Perfect.
only speak French with her, so that she gets that. Because I think they also said it's like confusing if the same person is speaking both languages. Like it's better if like one person in one language. And so it's just, it's been kind of a struggle. But I, like you, I was like, my kids are going to be bilingual, and
Right.
like I even had like I had these I don't know what they're called, images of grandeur, where I was like, and I'm gonna teach myself Italian and then be like fluent in Italian, and they'll be
In
trilingual.
there.
Like I was just very like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna do all these things. Yeah, but then you become a mom, and then you're like, oh, like none of what I wanted to happen happened. So just but it's been I don't know. I mean, I think that Lily, she's 2.5. So like I think this is like a good time for her to kind of be learning things. I don't know. But I mean, it's
I
a little
don't think
sad
it's too late. I'll just say that. If I can throw out a little encouragement,
Oh,
I think you're doing some great things, and any access to a different language helps brains develop in different ways. And so even if she doesn't become officially bilingual, I think any access to a different language that you're giving her is positive. It's 100% positive. Yeah.
yeah.
There's my little boost for you.
So it was different for me too, because when I was growing up, like I had the parent that was just French, and and so I had to think about that too. I was like, okay, well, me and Lily, like I was raised differently than she was. I had, my mom was French all the time, and my dad was American, but then my dad, my parents got divorced. So then it was just French all the time. And so I was immersed in it. Whereas like now it's like I can't really immerse Lily in it because we both speak English, me and her dad. So but yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to like go on like off on a tangent about me, but
this is part of it, right?
Yeah.
It's bouncing off each other and saying, this is my experience, what's your experience, and understanding that we all had expectations and most of them didn't happen. But we still ended up with great kids who are doing things that amaze us every day. And so I think you can still have fun with it. I think that's something I learned with my son when he went through his anti-German phase, is it wasn't fun for him.
Yeah.
And he was like 3. And I thought, why am I doing this to my son? He's not having fun. It's not making our relationship better.
Yeah.
And so now we've got a Tony box. I heard those are becoming popular in the
Yeah.
States. It's a very big thing here. And so we've got like German songs that we can play on the Tony box. And once in a while on Netflix, he'll let me switch it to German, or it's a German cartoon. And he's just becoming more open to it. And I thought, I just need to make this fun again.
Mhm.
And so I think that's with anything, with math, with science, with reading, when we try and force it on them and make it a job for them,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. We got to make
Yeah.
it fun.
That makes me think of, yeah, like motherhood, like we're going back to like, we all have expectations, but we kind of go into motherhood forgetting that like they're their own person. Like you're going to have a
Yes.
human, but they're going to be their own human and like with their own stuff, So, yeah, but I mean, we all go through that, and then we have to realize, oh wait, like
Oh, yeah.
maybe my kid doesn't want to learn this, or maybe she, like I mean, I was a dancer I took dance classes for 10 years growing up, and so when I was having Lily, I was like, oh man, it'll be so wonderful when she's in dance classes and stuff. And then I had to be like, whoa, Lisa, like she might hate dance. Like she might, you might show her a tutu and then she'll just like vomit on it. Like, so
Possible.
yeah. So,